Some of my favorite travel memories aren't tied to famous landmarks or incredible views. They're tied to people. Some I met for only a few minutes. Others have remained a part of my life long after the trip ended. Welcome to Travel Thoughtfully, the podcast. I'm Karen Hester, travel advisor and owner of Travel Thoughtfully. Last week, we talked about some of the unexpected benefits of travel, those moments and experiences that stay with us long after we return home. Today, I'd like to explore another one of those unexpected benefits, the people we meet along the way. Sometimes they're fellow travelers, other times they're the people who call that destination home. And occasionally, there's someone we meet for only a few minutes, yet somehow remember for years. A few years ago, I attended a conference in Orlando. Like many conferences, there were educational sessions, networking events, and plenty of opportunities to meet new people. Those conversations quickly became connections. Some of those connections ended when the conference was over, but others continued long after we went home. In fact, I still keep in touch with a handful of the people I met there. We exchange ideas, celebrate milestones, encourage one another's businesses, and occasionally compare notes about where we traveled since we met. One of those connections even became a part of another travel memory. When I planned my trip to Paris for the Olympics, one of the friends I met at the Orlando conference decided to join us. My sister had extra event tickets available, and she purchased them. She then stayed with my family in the apartment we rented, and together we attended a track and field relay event. She also experienced those spiral stairs I mentioned in last week's episode. It makes me smile because our friendship has started at a conference in Orlando. And years later, we find ourselves enjoying the Olympics together. It was one more reminder that you never know where a simple connection might lead. Now, not every connection becomes a lifelong friendship. Sometimes it's simply a wonderful moment in time. When Jesse and I arrived in Istanbul, while having dinner at the rooftop restaurant of our hotel, we met two women from London. What started as casual conversation turned into sharing stories about travel, life, and even a few appetizers they kindly shared. One of the women was curious about the travel business, and after we returned home, we talked a little more. She ultimately decided it wasn't the right time for her, but before we said goodbye, she told me that if I ever was in London, I had a place to stay. Now, will I ever take her up on that invitation? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I still remember that evening, not because we became lifelong friends, but because two strangers took the time to connect over a meal. And sometimes that's enough. Travel has a way of making those connections feel a little easier. Maybe it's because we're outside our normal routines. Maybe we're more curious, or maybe we're simply more open to conversations we never would have at home. Whatever the reason, I found that travel reminds us how much we have in common with people whose lives may look very different from our own. I think about the time we were in Belgium and stayed at an Airbnb. The host pointed us toward places we probably never would have found on our own, and even treated us to dinner one evening. We kept in touch for a while after I returned home, but eventually life moved us in different directions. Even so, they're still part of my memories of Belgium. Some connections last for years, others fade with time, yet they're still part of the story of a place. Either way, I'm grateful for the conversations that become memories long after the trip is over. One way to travel thoughtfully is to leave room for connection. You don't have to schedule every minute of every day. Talk with the couple sitting next to you on a tour. Ask a local where to eat instead of relying on an app. Or simply notice the little moments that happen along the way. I still remember giving up my seat on a train to a mother traveling with young, tired children. We exchanged a smile before going our separate ways. It was a small moment, one that only lasted a few seconds, but somehow it's one of the memories that has stayed with me. I think of those as little bubble moments, brief moments of time that seem to exist on their own space before life carries everyone in different directions. A conversation, a shared experience, a simple act of kindness. They don't have to become lifelong friendships to matter. Sometimes the connection itself is enough. The more I travel, the more I realize that while destinations may bring us somewhere new, it's often the people who make those places unforgettable. Some relationships last for years, others last only a few moments, and both remind me that some of the best parts of travel can never be planned. Have you ever met someone while traveling who became a part of the story you still tell today? Maybe it turned into a lasting friendship. Or maybe it's one of those little bubble moments that have stayed with you over the years. Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. At the beginning of this episode, I said some of my favorite travel memories weren't places. They're people. Some remain a part of our lives for years. Others are simply those little bubble moments we'll always remember. Both remind us that travel isn't only about where we go. It's also about the connections we make along the way. At Travel Thoughtfully, our philosophy is simple. We plan, you experience. Next time, we'll shift back to practical travel topic in Beyond Lost Luggage. We'll explore a few simple ways to protect yourselves before, during, and after your trip. From travel insurance and emergency planning to safeguarding your documents and personal information. Because travel safety isn't about just making sure your suitcase arrives when you do. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time.